Hello and welcome back to episode 11 of the 4 Out 1 in podcast with your host, George Hamilton III. I am recording this on June 11th, 2022, a day after, I almost forgot, a day after game 4 of the NBA Finals, in which the Warriors came back to tie the series at 2-2 as they split both games in Boston. Boston took game 3 and the Warriors took game 4. I said that I would do a pod after game 1, doing a game 2 recap, but game 2 ended up being a blowout, as probably most people saw. So I decided to just lay back and see if the series would be close. And I said I'll just do a pod after either game 3 or game 4. Game 3 sort of was a blowout, at least until at least throughout the entire game until like sort of halfway through the fourth quarter. Then the Boston Celtics pulled away. And then game 4 was really close. So I decided to do the podcast after game 4 to give my thoughts on at least games 2 through 4. So we can start with game 2. The Warriors won 107-88 as they tied the season as they tied the finals at 1-1 as they split both games at home. The scoring breakdown was Golden State won the first quarter 31-30. They won the second quarter 21-20. They won the third quarter 35-14, and they won the fourth quarter, or no, my bad. Boston won the fourth quarter 24-20. The key thing in this game I'm just going to point out already is that Boston had 18 turnovers to Golden State's 12. And in games where Boston has at least, or my bad, in games in which Boston has lost in the playoffs, they've averaged at least a total of 19 turnovers in those games. So, I mean, them getting close to that number kind of showed that they were probably going to lose, maybe not by a big margin, because I mean, they have guys like Tatum and Brown, but they have lost games where they've lost several games where they've had at least close to 19 turnovers, just like they did in game 2. The biggest lead for the Warriors was 29, and the Boston Celtics' biggest lead was 9. But as I said, halfway through that third quarter, the Warriors went on their run, and the game was basically over by the fourth, including a Jordan Poole half court heave coming down the court at the end of the third quarter, which was pretty smooth, I would say. As we get into the box score for game 2, I'm bringing it up. For the Warriors, Steph Curry had 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 9 of 21 shooting and 5 of 12 from the three. Jordan Poole had 17 points on 6 of 14 shooting from the field and 5 of 9 from three, including, I think he scored, I'm going to get into it though, but I think he scored like at least 13 or 14 points in the second half, including like 9 in the third quarter, which ended up capping a huge third quarter for the Warriors. As I said, he hit the buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter from half court. After the Warriors got a rebound off of a missed shot from the Celtics. And I mean, other than those two, I mean, it was a quiet night for everyone else. Kevon Looney had 12 points and 7 rebounds, and he was perfect from the field, 6 of 6. Klay Thompson struggled, shooting 4 of 19 from the field and 1 of 8 from three, and he had only 11 points. And Andrew Wiggins had a struggling night, shooting 4 of 12 from the field and 2 of 3 from three, and he had 11 points and 6 rebounds. And for the Celtics, Jason Tatum had I guess you could say, a okay night. He had 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 8 of 19 from the field and 6 of 9 from three. He's one person I do want to talk about relatively in this pod, just because I mean, we're going to get into the brilliance of Curry, but relatively, I feel like he's been underperforming outside of that game 1 performance and probably game 3 performance. He's underperformed. And I mean, his playmaking is making up for it. But in terms of his shooting numbers, he has not had like an efficient shooting game, especially if we look at his stats just overall from the field. he just hasn't shot the ball well. He shot well from three, but if you look at just overall, he shot pretty poorly. Moving on to Jaylen Brown, who had a quiet night in game two. He shot 5 of 17 from the field and 3 of 9 from three, and he had 17 points and 6 rebounds. And outside of those two, it was a pretty quiet night for the rest of the supporting cast. Derek White shot 4 of 13 from the field and 2 of 4 from three, and he had 12 points. And then outside of that, no one else scored more than 6, which was Grant Williams. And then you just see a lot of 2s and 4s and 3s. And I mean, some of the reserve players got garbage time minutes, so we don't need to get into that. I mean, we can just get into what happened in the third quarter. And as the stats are loading, the Celtics just primarily went cold in the third quarter. As I said, the score heading into halftime was, if I keep looking away for a second, I'm looking at my tablet because that has all the stats and stuff. Heading into halftime, the score was 52-50. So I mean, the game was literally in the balance going into the third quarter. And as I said, the Celtics shot very poorly from the field in the third quarter. They shot 4 of 17 from the field and 2 of 8 from three. And their leading scorer in the third quarter was Jason Tatum, who got to the free throw line 6 times and made 4 of his free throws. But he only took 2 shots and made 1 of them, which was a 3. And both shot attempts were 3s. And as for the Warriors, as I said, not Andrew Wiggins. Steph Curry had a great third quarter. He had 14 points on 4 of 9 from the field and 3 of 6 from three. And I thought Jordan Poole had a more productive third quarter than I thought. Maybe it was just the early fourth, but he shot 2 of 2 from the field, in which both of his shot attempts were 3s. And as I said, those 2 shot attempts were late in the third quarter. I remember one, he did a 2-for-1 and he made a step back 3 over Tice. I think he did like an in and out, and then he hit a step back over Tice. And then, as I said, the buzzer beater, he came up the court after the Celtics missed. I can't remember who gave him the rebound. He kind of did an in and out into a step back, really a step back, but he did an in and out, and then he just stopped and just shot it with like 1.1 on the clock, and it went in straight swish. So, I mean, that play right there literally capped that third quarter for the Warriors. They went up, I think, by like 24 heading into the fourth after that half court shot by Poole. So, I mean, at that point, I kind of stopped watching because I was going to play basketball with my friends, but I kind of kept tabs on the game after that. But once we got to the court to play basketball, I noticed it was still like a 17-point lead with like 2 minutes left, and I was like, yeah, this game is pretty much over. Other than that, I mean, there's really not much to say about game 2. It was pretty much an onslaught by Golden State. I mean, Curry, 29 points, 14 points in the third quarter. And I mean, he didn't even play at all in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, he scored 15 points in the first half, 14 points in the third quarter. I mean, he's just been backpacking this Warriors team through the first 2 games. Well, I mean, now we can say the first 4 games, but I mean, at this time, he was backpacking throughout the first 2 games. Obviously, we saw what he did in game 1. So, I mean, it's not much of a surprise. I know he's got finals MVP on his mind. So, I mean, he probably doesn't want to bring it up, but we all know he's gunning for that trophy if the Warriors win. We can move on to game 3, where the Boston Celtics ended up winning 116-100. The scoring breakdown for the teams is Boston outscored the Warriors in the first quarter 33-22. Boston outscored the Warriors in the second quarter 35-34. Golden State outscored the outscored the Celtics in the third quarter 33-25, and Golden State was outscored by Boston in the fourth quarter 23-11. In this one, I mean, the turnover battle wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, I shouldn't say that big of a deal because turnovers are always a big deal, but it wasn't like a large margin. The Golden State Warriors had 16 turnovers in game 3 compared to Boston's 12. But I mean, Boston, I mean, just by the scoring breakdown I gave, Boston outscored the Warriors by 12 points in the fourth quarter. And I think from a stat I think I read on Basketball Reference's Twitter page, the Warriors scoring 11 points, I think, was either the lowest point total or the second lowest point total they had ever scored in the franchise's history. I mean, obviously they had that 16-point fourth quarter in game 1. I mean, I'm gonna say 13 because the Bielitsa 3 kind of doesn't count because it was garbage time. So I mean, they've had two bad fourth quarters in this series, which kind of determined the outcome of this game. We can get into the box score statistics. One thing I do want to point out is that the Warriors were able to get back in this game after the first quarter. They had shot very poorly in the first quarter, and they had managed to get back into the game heading into the third quarter. And I think they even took a lead. Yeah, I think they even took a lead heading into the third quarter. And I felt that the Warriors, if they had a great fourth quarter, they probably would have ended up winning this game, or it would have ended up being close. Maybe they lost, but it would end up being like at least 5, if not lower than that, point margin. But we can get into the stats for the Warriors. Steph Curry had 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. On 12 of 22 shooting from the field, 6 of 11 from 3. He had a solid night, as he has been all series. Klay Thompson, I mean, he had 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on 7 of 17 shooting and 5 of 13 from the field. So, I mean, it was an okay night by Klay's standards. Yes, he did put up points and he kind of got out of his slump, but it wasn't like the Klay Thompson efficiency that we've become used to over the years. And Andrew Wiggins had 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists on 7 of 16 from the field and 1 of 6 from 3. I would like to see Andrew Wiggins, for one, I think he did in game 4. Well, I'll get into the stats and all of that, and then game 4 after this game. But I think one thing is Andrew Wiggins he's had games where he shot the 3-point. He shot well from behind the arc, but then he's had games like game 3 where he shot 1 of 6. And I mean, the Celtics are kind of, I would say, okay with leaving Wiggins open. He is a 39% 3-point shooter and he was a 39% 3-point shooter in the regular season. I honestly don't remember what he is in the playoffs. I want to say he's probably around that same mark. But out of the starting unit, outside of Draymond and Kevon Looney, he's probably and Draymond isn't going to take threes unless they're late in the shot clock. So Wiggins has to hit his threes at a consistent, like 40% clip in order for this Warriors team to sort of be successful, because they're going to give him those shots and it's up to him to hit them to take sort of a burden off Steph. And Jordan Poole in 24 minutes had 10 points and he shot 4 of 8 from the field and 1 of 4 from 3. I mean, in this game, Jordan Poole, he played okay. I saw on Twitter that a lot of people said that they shouldn't be their expectations shouldn't be that high of him because he's only 23. But I mean, we saw what he kind of did in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So I wasn't expecting him to just go out and average like 20 to 25 points a game and be Steph's Robin, quote unquote. But I would like to see him average at least 15 to 18 points per game just to sort of take the load off Steph and Klay. because with his movement and his driving ability to get to the basket, he takes so much pressure off Steph if he's able, Steph and Clay, if he's able to get downhill and get to the basket and all of that. And Otto Porter, I'm gonna reference this because Otto Porter has been solid in the series. Even though he has 6 points, even though he had 6 points, he played amazing defense in his stint on the court, and he provides a spark and provides floor spacing, I should say, as well as a spark that the Warriors needed, I should say, in Game 4. But it's one of those things where Otto Porter, the Warriors downsize where they have to take out Kevon Looney, and they probably play Draymond at the 5 and Otto Porter at the 4. But it's one of those things where Otto Porter provides so much floor spacing, and he can hit the 3 at a great clip, where it's sometimes you have to run, where Steve Kerr has to run the risk of, do I go small and put more floor spacing on the floor for my creators like Steph and Jordan Poole to make plays and get to the basket so that we can have floor spacing for at least Wiggins and Otto Porter to hit their threes? Or do I keep big so I can match up with the Celtics big men with Rob Williams and Horford, and we'll go there. So, I mean, it's been an interesting chess match between Udoka and Kerr in terms of the rotations and lineups that they put out. As for the Celtics in this game, Jaylen Brown had 27 points on 9 of 16 from the field and 4 of 8 from 3. He had 9 rebounds and 5 assists to go along with his 27 points. Marcus Smart had 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 8 of 17 from the field and 3 of 7 from 3. And Jason Tatum had I guess you can say he struggled offensively. As I said, I'm going to get into the big names after the Game 4 recap. But he shot 9 of 23 from the field and 3 of 9 from 3. And he had 26 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds. Obviously, as I said, Jason Tatum his playmaking in this series has very well improved and progressed throughout the playoffs, I should say. And we're seeing that when his shot isn't falling because he's such a star, or just because he's turned into such a star on the court, the defense can't leave him, especially when there's a mismatch such as when Curry is on him. And I think that's what the Celtics did a lot in this series. In Game 3, they hunted Curry, especially with the Tatum matchup and the sometimes Horford matchup. I remember there was one play where they were swinging the ball and Horford ended up getting Steph on him as Steph was kind of chasing the ball because the ball was moving. And Horford just took him to the paint, backed him down, I think 2 or 3 times, and then hit a hook shot over him. That was pretty simple, something that he didn't do in Game 2. If you remember, in Game 2, he had a similar play where he was backing down on I want to say left low post, and he was backing down, and then he thought about going up for a shot, but ended up making a pass, and it ended up being a turnover. But we'll move on. Outside of those 3, Smart, Brown, and Tatum, I mean, you had Robert Williams with 8 points and 10 boards on 4 of 5 shooting from the field. And he's been, in my opinion, I won't say he's finals MVP. He shouldn't not be getting finals MVP praise, but he's played a great job. He's done a great job on both ends of the court, offense and defense, picking up on help side rotations, great recovery blocks when he's been beat off the dribble, and offensively just grabbing all the offensive boards. He had 3 offensive rebounds in Game 3, but I remember there was one game I think where he had like 4 or 5 offensive rebounds. But he's been a horse on the boards, which is basically his job. I mean, that and being a beast in the paint defensively. I mean, you get those 2 from him. You get those 2 jobs from him, and the Celtics are always going to be in the game, depending on how the rest of the team flows and it's how Tatum and Brown are going offensively. In this game, we can just get to the fourth quarter. As I said, it was sort of close I'll start at the first quarter and then we'll go to the fourth, because those I think were the two big quarters in my opinion. The Warriors in the first quarter shot 8 of 23 from the field and 2 of 10 from three. And really, it was just a lot of missed shots. Nothing really more than that. I mean, they only had 3 turnovers. So, I mean, as I said, just 8 of 23 shooting, not like the Warriors in a quarter, outside of obviously the fourth quarter, as we've seen 2 games in a row, not 2 games in a row, but 2 games in this series. And I mean, it was just a cold shooting quarter for them, but for them to only be down pretty much 11 and to get back into the game was very intriguing to watch. And the Celtics, as I said, they shot 12 of 22 from the field and 4 of 10 from three. And as I said earlier, they had 33 points in the first quarter, and Jaylen Brown had 17 of those 33. He came out firing on all cylinders, shooting 6 of 9 from the field and 3 of 4 from three. And I want to say I'm going to move to the third quarter because I think that was the quarter Curry had I was right. Curry moving on to the third quarter. This is where the Warriors kind of, I don't want to say clawed their way back into it because the game was sort of close. They were keeping it, I think, at like in between 6 and 8 points, but they slowly were making their runs in the third quarter. Curry had 15 points in the third quarter, shooting 5 of 8 from the field and 4 of 5 from three. Klay Thompson had 10 points, shooting 3 of 5 from the field and 2 of 4 from three. And outside of those two, I mean, they scored 33 points in the third quarter to get themselves back into the game. I think they ended up taking the lead, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, it was literally a role reversal of the first and the third quarter for both teams. The Warriors shot 50% from the field and 58% from three on 12 attempts, as they made 7 of their threes. And for the Celtics, they shot 8 of 22 from the field and 3 of 9 from three in the fourth quarter. They shot 9 3-pointers and only made 3 of them. And as I said, it was pretty much a role reversal of that first quarter. The Warriors shot the ball really well in the third quarter to get themselves back into the game. And the Celtics kind of they sort of went cold. And basically the game ended up being really close going into the fourth. And moving on to the fourth, as my tablet is loading the fourth quarter stats. For the Celtics, Tatum had 8 points on 3 of 7 from the field. He missed his only 3-pointer. And I mean, outside of him and Marcus Smart, who shot 3 of 7 as well and shot 2 of 5 from three and had 8 points as well. I mean, excuse me. Sorry about that. I had to get some water in my system because I could not stop getting the hiccups. So going back to the Celtics in the fourth quarter, I mean, there isn't much to really talk about from the box score perspective. They shot 8 of 20 from the field and 2 of 8 from three. But as I said, the Warriors sort of went cold in the fourth quarter, and I shouldn't even say Steph. No one was to be found in the fourth quarter. The Warriors shot 5 of 15 from the field and 1 of 9 from three. And as I mentioned earlier, they only scored 11 points, with 5 of those coming from Wiggins, as he shot 2 of 3 from the field. And Curry went 1 of 4 from the field and 0 of 2 from three, and he only had 2 points. But as I said, the Celtics literally winning the fourth quarter by committee won them the game 3. I mean, they had a big game. They had a big night from Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart ended up coming up clutch late down the stretch, offensively and defensively. And I mean, while Tatum had a subpar game, quote unquote, I mean, he did what he could offensively and defensively, having 9 assists to go with his, I want to say, let me get back to it, 26 points. So, I mean, Tatum being a playmaker when his shot is not falling, that won them the game as well. I want to say another reason why the Celtics won game 3, they had 47 rebounds to the Warriors 31. and their offensive rebounding totals were 15-6. So the more second chance opportunities the Celtics got, they've capitalized on them, and that's always going to lead to a win no matter what team you face or who the team is actually playing. Whenever you rebound, whenever there is a big rebounding margin between two teams, the team that has more rebounds and more offensive rebounds is probably going to win. There's probably only been a few instances where a team that's been out rebounded did in the offensive and total rebounding department has ended up winning the game. So I mean the Celtics out rebounding the Warriors by 16 and by 9 in the offensive rebounding category was always going to be a plus for them. And I always said heading into this series that the Warriors, in order for them to have a chance in this series, they were going to need to have a similar, if not out rebound the Celtics because of the Warriors' lack of size and the fact that Kevon Looney is really their only center, which he is a undersized center at 6'9". Going against the too big lineup of Horford and Robert Williams down low for the Celtics, they were going to need to match intensity and physicality in order to have a chance in the series. The rebounding numbers were always going to be intriguing to me because I felt like whoever won that category would probably win most of the games, if not all of them. And I mean, for the most part, I think outside of game one, which was a very close margin, in game two, where the margins were close, but the Warriors ended up blowing them out, the rebounding numbers have been close. And I think I think game three was the first game of the series where the margins of the rebounding margin was actually favored to Boston, and they ended up winning by 16. So, I mean, the rebounding numbers were always going to be intriguing to me to watch. And so we can move into last night's game 4, before I get into the individual star performances I've watched this series. If my tablet would cooperate with me. And for game 4 last night, the Warriors won 107-97. And the scoring breakdown for each quarter for each team is Boston won the first quarter 28-27. They won the second quarter 26-22. Golden State won the third quarter 30-24. And they won the fourth quarter 28-19. The turnover margins were eerily similar. The Golden State Warriors turned the ball over 16 times, which they actually still managed to win, which is very, very good in my opinion, because normally if you turn the ball over a lot, you're probably not going to win. And Boston had 15 turnovers. So as I said, eerily similar. And we can get into the box scores. I do want to mention that the Warriors in this game 4, they started out with a lineup of Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Poole, and Draymond. So Draymond was starting at the 5, and Kevon Looney was coming off the bench. But once Draymond picked up 2 fouls, they brought Kevon Looney to play center, because obviously you didn't want Draymond picking up a third foul early in the first quarter. But I found that really intriguing that they started off small, and they were actually sort of hanging with the Celtics in that first quarter, where I mean, I think the Celtics got out to like a 15-6 lead. And then I think Kevon Looney came in and Steph Curry kind of started backpacking and keeping the Warriors in it. And then, I mean, with the rotations, and I mean, in this game, we can get into Draymond getting benched in the fourth quarter, and why I thought that was an intriguing but necessary move, and I'll get my details as to why. But looking at the box scores, Steph Curry had a 43, 10, and 4 game, shooting 14 of 26 from the field and 7 of 14 from three. Klay Thompson had 18 points on 7 of 17 from the field and 4 of 10 from three. So while he had an okay night, he did hit some big timely shots in the game. I will say that. He I think had like 2 threes in the third quarter, and then I think he hit 1 3 in the fourth, or 1 3 in the third quarter and 2 threes in the fourth. I know one of them was like to tie the game late in the fourth quarter. And Wiggins shot the same as Klay, 7 of 17 from the field and 2 of 6 from three. And he had 17 points to go along with 16 rebounds. So a huge night from Wiggins. While he didn't shoot the ball efficiently as I would hope, him having 16 rebounds, 13 of them being defensive rebounds, and 3 of them being offensive rebounds, including a timely putback layup late in that fourth quarter. Wiggins, literally, as I said, when he first got to Golden State, if he just found his role and executed it offensively and defensively, he would literally be a star on this team. Not like in terms of like superstar, like when he was in Minnesota and everyone was calling him Maple Jordan, but if he just found his role, made his shots, became a 39, as I said earlier, he shoots 39%. He shot 39% from the field, from the three in the regular season on 5 attempts. So I mean, if he could just do that and play solid defense, like he fits this Warriors team very well. And as I said when he got there, if he did that, like this Warriors team would be dangerous and would be dangerous. Obviously, no one thought that Poole would be the player that he became. But moving on to him, actually, Poole had 14 points, shooting 6 of 13 from the field and 2 of 7 from three. He did have some timely buckets late in the third and fourth quarters, but he got going early in the first quarter, and I want to say mid to late second quarter. I think he had, I want to say 10, if not 8, if not 10 points in the first half, but they were like timely points because the Warriors were kind of slipping away from Boston early in the first and second quarter. But when he came in, he provided a spark, and he kind of was the reason why they got back in the game and made the game close throughout the first and second quarters, or I should say first half. And moving on to the Celtics, another subpar game from Tatum, where he shot 8 of 23 from the field and 4 of 8 from three, as he had 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. And Jaylen Brown had 21 points, shooting 9 of 19 from the field and 2 of 6 from three, as he had 6 rebounds as well. And Marcus Smart had 18 points, shooting 7 of 18 from the field and 3 of 9 from three. And Derek White, actually, while he shot pretty poorly, he had 16 points, shooting 4 of 12 from the field and 3 of 5 from three. And I mean, Derek White, I'm going to give him props in this series. I mean, he's the guy that they want to shoot. That the Warriors wanted to shoot the three ball, and he's hitting them at, I want to say like at least 40 to 44% clip, like on at least 4 attempts. Like the Warriors were leaving him open and he was making his threes, which I mean, you got to live with it if that's the game plan. But I will give him props. He was really, I don't want to say struggling throughout the playoffs, but teams were literally daring him to shoot the ball. And he sort of was hit or miss early in the playoffs. But in the finals, he's been literally hitting, I mean, 44%, at least 40 to 44%. And I want to say at least 4 to 5 attempts a game. I mean, I mean, if we're looking at regular season numbers, he's probably top 10 if this was a regular season. But moving on, and for the Celtics, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we can go to the box scores for each quarter. Stats are loading. For the Warriors, Steph Curry, as I said, he had 12 points as he played all 12 minutes, shooting 4 of 9 from the field and 2 of 6 from three. Wiggins poured in 8 points, shooting 3 of 4 from the field and 2 of 3 from three. And I mean, Klay Thompson had shot 2 of 4 from the field and made his only three. I mean, outside of those three, that was pretty much the Warriors offense. I want to say first quarter until Jordan Poole checked in the second and he kind of did his thing. For the Celtics, Jason Tatum had 12 points, shooting 4 of 6 from the field and making all 3 of his threes. And Robert Williams shot 2 of 2 from the field and had 5 points. He also had 5 rebounds as well. And outside of that, I mean, that was pretty much the first quarter box score. For the second quarter, Wiggins struggled for the Warriors offensively. He played all 12 minutes and went 1 of 6 from the field and 0 of 2 from three. As I said, Jordan Poole kind of gave the Warriors the spark they needed to kind of get themselves back into the game in the second quarter, as he had 8 points and made 3 of 7 from the field and shot 2 of 5 from three. And Steph Curry came in. I want to say he played like the last 7 minutes. I don't think he started the second quarter, but I know he played the last 7 minutes of the second quarter, and he had 7 points and shot 3 of 6 from the field and 0 of 2 from three. And for the Celtics, Tatum had 4 points and 4 rebounds as he shot 2 of 8 from the field and 0 of 1 from three. Jaylen Brown got going in this quarter as he made all 4 of his shots and both of his 3-point attempts as he had 10 points. And Derek White shot 2 of 4 from the field and made his only 3 as well to have 6 points. And I mean, from the shooting splits breakdown, I mean, both teams sort of shot, I want to say, average. I mean, the Warriors probably shot below average in terms of their shooting percentage. The Warriors shot 9 of 28 from the field, leading to 32% from the field and 16% from three, shooting 2 of 12 from three. And as for the Celtics, they shot 9 of 20 from the field at a 45% rate, and they shot 66% from three on 4 of 6. And as I said, the scoring breakdown for the second quarter was 26-22 Boston. And then moving on to the quarter breakdown for quarter number 3, Steph Curry for the Warriors, as he played all 12 minutes. This was the Curry backpacking game, as I mentioned earlier. He shot 5 of 7 from the field and 4 of 5 from three to have 14 points in the third quarter. And outside of him, I mean, Klay Thompson had 5 points, shooting 2 of 6 from the field and 1 of 4 from three. But outside of Curry, I mean, it's literally 2s and 3s in the box score. He had basically half of their points. He had 14 and the team had 30. And for the Celtics, Jason Tatum had 4 points, shooting 1 of 4 from the field and 0 of 2 from three. Al Horford had 3 points, shooting 1 of 3 from the field, and which all of his shot attempts and his only make were threes. Jaylen Brown shot 1 of 4 from the field and 0 of 1 from three. And Marcus Smart had 9 points, shooting 4 of 8 from the field and 1 of 3 from three as he played all 12 minutes. And I mean, in this quarter, I mean, similar to the second quarter, Boston shot 9 of 25 from the field, which was 36%. And they shot 3 of 11 from three, which was 27%. And the Warriors shot 11 of 23 from the field, which was 48%. I'm rounding up. And they shot 5 of 12 from three, which is 42%. As I said, I'm rounding up. And they out-rebounded Boston in the quarter 15-11. But as I said, in this quarter, Steph Curry just took over. He was getting, I don't want to say open looks because some of his threes were contested, but the Celtics, Ime Udoka kind of still had Al Horford and Robert Williams dropping in coverage which led to, as I said, if you're gonna play drop coverage against Curry, you're gonna need to at least play up and not sort of hang around that free throw line circle paint area. Because if Curry gets around the screen, he's just gonna pull up. Whether it's a make or miss, he's Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. He's going to pull up. So I mean, it was interesting to see them still play sort of drop coverage and still drop at a astronomical rate. And when I say that, I mean how far they drop how far the centers or the big men drop in coverage, instead of sort of not pressing on Curry, but not giving him enough space to where he can get the shot off, I should say. And moving on to the fourth quarter, where it was interesting enough, Draymond, I think at this point had 5 fouls or 4 fouls, but he was playing bad the entire game. So Steve Kerr decided to sit him down and play a lineup that featured Steph Curry. I want to say Jordan Poole. I want to say Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Clay, Wiggins, and Bielitsa. I want to say that was the lineup. And that lineup actually kept the Warriors in the game and led them to getting the win in game 4. Bielitsa played great defense on Tatum for multiple possessions. Like, I think back-to-back possessions, he locked up Tatum, and then I think Brown ended up dribbling the ball off of his foot, but he couldn't get around Bielitsa, and Bielitsa ended up getting the steal. So, I mean, that lineup that Kerr put out there, where he sat Draymond for, I want to say, like the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and it ended up leading the Warriors to getting back into the game and in getting the lead. I mean, it takes bravery and courage to sit your, want to say, what, third or fourth highest paid player and one of the more impactful players on your team. Whether, I know it's not offensively all the time, but defensively, he's probably the best perimeter defender outside of Wiggins. So to sit him was a big move, but I mean, it paid off. It's a high risk, high reward type of situation, where if they lose, it kind of reflects on Steve Kerr. But since they won, I mean, it's a big move that ended up paying out in the long run. But getting into the fourth quarter stats, as I said, this was where Klay Thompson hit timely shots while he shot poorly from the field, I should say, or not as efficiently as we know Klay to be. He had some timely shots, as he had 8 points, shooting 3 of 4 from the field and 2 of 3 from the three. Steph Curry had 10 points, shooting 2 of 4 from the field and made his only 3, but he got to the line 6 times and made 5 of his free throws. And Wiggins shot 2 of 5 from the field, missed his only 3, and he had 4 points, but he had 6 rebounds, and he had a offensive rebound that ended up being vital to the Warriors getting the lead late in the game, or holding on to the lead, as I think his putback, gave them a 2-point lead, but it was a huge putback because literally Robert Williams and Horford were in the paint, and he literally jumped on it on a pogo stick and rose to just lay the ball in off, I think, a Curry miss. And moving on to Jordan Poole, he shot 2 of 4 from the field and 0 of 1 from 3, but he had 4 points, and he had, as I said, he had some timely buckets down the stretch too. Bielitsa, in the 4.5 minutes he played, while he shot 0 of 2 from the field and had 0 points, he still played solid defense, as I said, on multiple possessions. I mean, you're not asking Bielitsa to play great, I want to say, 8 to 10 minute defense on Tatum and Brown. But I mean, if he plays great defense for multiple possessions in the time that you put him in, I mean, it pays off in the long run, right? As for the Celtics, they had a very poor shooting quarter. Jason Tatum shot 1 of 5 from the field, and only had 3 points. He made he made one of his 2 threes. Jaylen Brown shot 3 of 7 from the field and 0 of 3 from 3, as he had 6 points and 4 rebounds. And outside of that, Marcus Smart had 4 points, shooting 1 of 4 from the field and 1 of 3 from 3. And he made his only free throw. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, it's pretty. The breakdown is kind of not really. I mean, I shouldn't say noticeable for the Celtics because it is, but we'll get into the shooting splits and why I think the fourth quarter was very important as a whole for the rest of this series going into Game 5 on Monday. The Warriors shot 50% from the field, 10 of 20 from the field, and 3 of 7 from 3, which is 43%. And the Celtics shot 7 of 21 from the field and 4 of 13 from 3, which is 33% from the field and 30% from 3. They actually also got out rebounded 16-6. The NBA.com website, for some reason, has had a really weird bug, I should say, where the rebounding stats will not show the rebounding numbers in total will be different from the rebounding numbers will be different in the game compared to when the game is over and the stats are actually completed. Like I remember there was, I want to say Game 2 where the rebounding breakdown was like 50, it was like 58 to, or it might have been Game 3. The rebounding breakdown was like 51 to like 36, and then at the end of it, it ended up being like 47 to like 33 or something like that. Still a big margin, but it's weird when I'm trying to do all the breakdowns and stuff, and like the rebounding numbers are just off. But the Warriors out rebounding the Celtics in the fourth quarter by 10 is a huge story as to why they won this game. As a whole, the Warriors had 55 rebounds to the Celtics 42, and they out rebounded them in the offensive category 16-11. So I mean, Kevon Looney had 4 offensive rebounds and Draymond Green had 5. So I mean, that just goes to show you that while Draymond isn't scoring the ball, he did a little bit of everything. He had 9 rebounds, 8 assists, and four steals. So I mean, while he wasn't a threat on the offensive end, he was basically playing well in every other aspect of the game. But what I do want to talk about in these finals is the stats and why, and give my MVP ladder and all of that. Steph Curry is shooting. Let me actually do this. Steph Curry in the 4 games that have been played is averaging 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists on 50% shooting from the field and 49% from 3. He's making 6 of his threes on basically 13 attempts. And from the field, he's making 12 of his 23 and a half shots. So, I mean, Steph Curry literally right now is the MVP, in my opinion. Now that depending on if the Warriors win, he would be my finals MVP. Because, I mean, he's literally backpacking this Warriors team offensively, as you can see. Or as I have said, Klay Thompson, while he hasn't shot the ball well in this series, he's averaging 17 points on 36% from the field and 34% from 3. And Andrew Wiggins, as I mentioned earlier, all he needed to do was average 15 to 18 points, which he is in between those two numbers. He's averaging 16 and a half points, 8.5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists, and a steal and a block a game on 43% from the field and 32% from 3 on 5 attempts. If he could get those in the last 2 games, if he can get that 3-point percentage to at least, I want to say 35 to 39%, basically his regular season average, like that'll be a plus. He could, I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure if he were to get that up there, it probably wouldn't be enough for Finals MVP just because Steph Curry is playing the best basketball probably of his career since his regular season MVPs. But Wiggins being a focal point in terms of hitting his shots when he's open and even when he's contested, I mean, it would provide dividends for the Warriors as Poole has struggled in this series, shooting 43% from the field and 36% from three, as he's averaging 12 points, 2 assists, and 2 rebounds. And I mean, outside of that, I mean, it's literally Curry backpacking and then everyone else is following. I mean, I'm not going to get in like Draymond is averaging 4 points, but he's also averaging 7 rebounds and 6 assists with almost 2 steals a game. So I mean, obviously we're not Draymond just needs to be a threat offensively, but we know what he's going to bring defensively. And as for the Celtics in the series, in the 4 games that have been played, Jaylen Brown is averaging 22 points, shooting 44% from the field, 35.5% from 3 on 8 attempts. And he's also averaging 7 rebounds and 4 assists to go along with those 22 points. Jason Tatum is also averaging the same point total. He's averaging the same points, 22 and a third on 34% from the field, 45% from 3 on 8 attempts as well. And I'm going to get into Tatum once I get through everyone else. Marcus Smart is averaging 15.5 points from the field from my bad. 15.5 points, shooting 44% from the field and 38.5% from 3. And Derek White is averaging 14 points on 38% from the field and 50% from 3 on 5 attempts. So he's literally making half of his threes. As I said, literally has been playing out of his mind, and I gotta give him props to that. It must be the whole baby boom. We saw it with Fred VanVleet back in 2019 during the finals, and it's now happened with Derek White. And we can move on after that. I mean, the stats breakdowns aren't that big of, I shouldn't say that big of a deal, but I'm going to get to Tatum because I'm going to bring it up on my tablet and I'm going to tell you why this is such a big deal in my opinion. So I have the shot chart. On my tablet. And basically in this series, Tatum is shooting 14 of 29. So he's basically shooting 50% from 3, basically both wings and the top of the key. He's 0 of 2 from the left corner in the series. And then when you get to the mid-range and paint area, Jason Tatum is shooting 2 of 17 from the free throw line area and the mid-range, that area. And he's shooting 5 of 20 from the like 3 to 10 foot area. And then, when you get to the paint, he's shooting 50% from in the paint. So, I mean, and I know what this is attributed to. I mean, people have argued about it on Twitter. He's kind of searching for fouls. And obviously, like in the finals, especially obviously in the playoffs, you're not going to get the calls you get in the regular season. And especially in the finals with the best referees of the season reffing the finals, they're not going to give you the same calls that you probably have been receiving in the playoffs. And so something I have noticed is that Tatum is like searching for fouls instead of just trying to make the basket. And I mean, just from the mid-range perspective, Tatum is just missing his mid-ranges. As I said, one thing I noticed is that not even just looking at the shot chart, but just looking from watching all of the games, is that like Tatum has been great from the 3, but everywhere else he struggled, as the shot chart, as I said with the shot chart. Like everywhere else he struggled, but he's making all like half of his threes. So obviously, like it looks good from a statistical standpoint, but when you get into like looking at the shot chart and all of where he's missing, I mean, it's not the greatest. And actually, I didn't even realize this. That just goes to show you. Hopefully, the NBA. I don't think the NBA can get me for looking at the shot chart, but I'm gonna bring it up. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Here we go. So, as I said, bring up Jason Tatum. As I said, he's shooting 14 of 29, and I'm gonna bring up on this side. I'm gonna bring up Curry just so I can talk about him wherever Steph is. He's on the bottom. But as I said, with Jason Tatum, he's shooting 14 of 29 from literally the wing, middle, top of the key, from both wings and the top of the key. And he's 0 of 2 in the corner. And basically, he's literally under league average when it comes to mid-range, 3 to 10 feet, and the paint. So now I'm going to go advanced. And when we go advanced, he's shooting 4 of 7 from the left wing, 57%, 3 of 8 from the top of the key, 37%. So, I mean, he's literally at league average. And right wing, he's shooting 50%. But as I said, when we get inside the mid range to 3 to 10 feet to paint area, he's shooting very bad. And I feel like that isn't getting talked about enough. From in the left mid range area, the left elbow, and I guess you can say the left wing, and I guess you can say left elbow, and then sort of this area, but left elbow especially, he's shooting 1 of 10. So he's only made one shot out of his 10 attempts in the 4 games that have been played. And then when you get to the right elbow, he's shooting 0 of 3. And when you get to 3 to 10 feet, he's shooting 0 of 2. When you get inside not the restricted area, but the free throw line area, he's shooting 1 of 6. And then when you get to the restricted area, he's shooting 44% on 11 of 25. And I feel like him shooting bad at everywhere else outside 3 isn't getting talked about, in my opinion. I feel like he needs to shoot better for all the praise that we gave him through the first 3 rounds. I mean, Jaylen Brown, while he isn't, I mean, Jaylen Brown is shooting well outside of obviously the right wing 3 spot and the paint. He's shooting pretty much league average to above league average. So I mean, Jaylen Brown is kind of doing, and he's also had great starting quarters where he's had, obviously he had the 17-point first quarter in game 3. And I mean, I want to say game 1, he had the 10-point quarter to sort of bring the Celtics back into the game. And then as we look at Steph for the Warriors, I mean, I'm just going to talk about this man's greatness, even though he kind of I should say, is demonetized a word? He kind of made me hate him while I was in middle school because he would always destroy my Clippers. But when we look at his shot chart for the basic, he's shooting literally from 3 in the corner. He's 1 of 1. Left wing, right wing, and the top of the key, he's shooting 50%. Free throw line area, 11 of 17, 65%. Obviously, in the restricted area and the free throw line area, he's shooting 8 of 22 and 3 of 4. I mean, 3 of 4. Actually, 3. I don't know why I said restricted area. Restricted area is shooting good, but when you get to the free throw line area, he's shooting 8 of 22, but you're not expecting Steph to shoot that. You're not expecting Steph to be in the league average to above league average when you get to mid range. I mean, he made a couple floaters late in the game last night, but you want Steph literally operating right where all the green is. If that is all green, he's literally hitting all of his shots. So then when we go to the advanced version, Steph from the top of the key is shooting 52% from the field. When we get to the right wing, he's shooting 53% from the field on right wing on 17 attempts and top of the key on 23 attempts. So he's literally making more than half of his threes. Left wing, obviously, he's shooting league average, but I mean, still pretty good. Obviously, he made his one corner. He made his only corner three. In the mid range, he's literally hitting everything 4-4, 2 of 3 from free throw line area. Right elbow, 1 of 1. Left elbow, 4-4. We get to the sort of hash mark free throw line area where he's shooting 2 of 3. And then restricted area, he's shooting 8 of 19. But I mean, that takes into account sort of this and this as well. But Steph, I mean, we don't need the shot chart distribution and all of that to show how great he has been in this series. He's literally played great offensively. I mean, defensively, obviously, he's going to be the hunted by the Boston Celtics, or the hunty. Is it hunty? Hunty, but he's going, no, he's going to be hunted by Boston, especially Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's the matchup they both want. They want Curry on him and force Golden State to make decisions on whether they should help or whether they have to stick to their man. Other players have to stick to their man. But I mean, Steph Curry on the offensive end is literally backpacking the Warriors. That is why he is my Finals MVP. The stats show it. The shot chart shows it. And if I had to make an MVP ladder for the series, Steph Curry is number 1. Jaylen Brown is number 2. Wiggins is number 3. I'm putting Wiggins ahead of Tatum because Wiggins has had, as I said, in game 4, 17 and 16 in a game that the Warriors desperately and especially needed. I mean, he showed up. Whether or not he shot the ball efficiently isn't the question. He did all the hustle plays that possibly don't show up on the stat sheet. So he's number 3 for me. Tatum is number 4 because he hasn't had that breakout 30-point game that we've kind of seen from him in previous series. And then at the 5, I would say it's probably a toss-up between Looney, Clay, even though, I mean, we don't even need to worry about the 5 spot, to be honest. But if I had to choose, it's probably between Looney, Williams, and Clay at this point. I mean, I feel like those 3 are probably they're tied for the 5 spot, but literally the Finals MVP is literally between 1 through 4. And if I'm making a prediction for game 4 on Monday, I have the Warriors winning. I want to say, let's go 114 to 106. Curry's going to have another 30 ball. Wiggins, I think, should have 20 points and at least, I want to say, 10 rebounds. Draymond, I think, will play great on the offensive end. He's going to at least give the Warriors. I'm not trying to be a bandwagon fan here. I just want them to win because I don't want Boston to win. But I think he will give the Warriors 8 points, 8 rebounds. Let's go 7 assists, and he'll have at least 2 to 3 steals, maybe a block. And I expect Jordan Poole to play well. He'll probably, as I said, pitch in between that 12 to 17 point mark and basically do his thing when he gets in and when he gets subbed into the game. I feel like the Warriors winning game 4 will give them the motivation and the energy they need, along with that Chase Center crowd, because I kind of grew up watching basketball inside Oracle. I wanted to say Oracle really bad, but that Chase Center crowd will give them the motivation and energy they need to win this game and obviously go back to Boston and hopefully be champions in Boston, which would basically be, and especially if Steph Curry plays well, if they win in Boston game 6, I mean, Steph might, it's hard not to put him top 10, but I mean, winning Boston, plays well the entire series, had his career playoff game, in my opinion, in game 4. And if he has a similar career playoff game in game 6 after they possibly win game 5, I mean, Steph might be top 10 and he's going to win finals MVP, which is well deserved after he didn't get it in 2015, in my opinion. But I am excited for game 4. I didn't actually mention this, but Carlos is he's going on a vacation with his family. I don't know when he'll be back, but we're talking constantly. And I think he'll be back before the NBA draft on June 26th, hopefully, because I need him for this draft stuff and the incoming rookie class that's coming in. But I can't wait for game 4 on Monday. Hopefully the Warriors win. Hopefully we get a great game like we did last night. And this is episode 11 of the 401 in podcast with your host, George Hamilton III. And I'm signing off. See you Monday night. See you Monday night, probably Tuesday night, because I am starting my internship and I don't know how much time I'm going to have to edit and record the podcast after that. But thank you. Signing off. Peace.